The Loved Dog, the playful, non-aggressive way to teach your dog good behavior. By Tamar Geller with Andrea Cagan. Narrated by Renée Raudman. Copyright 2007 by Tamar Geller. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with Simon Spotlight Entertainment, an imprint of Simon & Schuster Incorporated, and was produced in the year 2007 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Introduction. How the heck do you flush this thing? I asked myself. I was in a makeshift bathroom in a small guest house in Bangkok, standing over a toilet with no seat, when I realized that there was no conceivable way to flush. I walked into the living room, my face blushing with embarrassment. "Can you help me?" I shyly asked the elderly woman I had met for the first time just a moment before. "I couldn't flush the toilet. I'm not sure what to do." The lady of the house cracked a yellow-toothed smile and asked me in heavily accented English, "You see bathtub and bucket next to toilet?" I nodded. "Fill up bucket with water and throw in toilet. That make it flush. Then you use water to wash." I thanked her and returned to the bathroom, where I practiced my unusual and newfound knowledge. Still embarrassed, I shuddered to think what would have happened if I'd been caught by the person to follow me, or if this woman had not understood me. Wait just a minute, you're probably thinking. What do your travel adventures have to do with dog training? The answer is everything. When we bring a new dog into our home, he or she is like an alien entering a foreign land, with no idea how to fit in, how things work, and worst of all, no way to ask for help or instructions. Then, to add insult and pain to confusion, when they do their business in the wrong place, according to us, they get their highly sensitive noses shoved into their own excrement, smacked with a newspaper, or thrown outside in shame, leaving them to wonder if these new people are safe to be around and if the natural act of going to the bathroom is wrong. Thank goodness the woman in Bangkok didn't do that to me. Imagine if someone only spoke gibberish to you, yanked your neck, and smacked or caged you when you failed to understand. Would you feel love toward her? What's more, the subsequent anxiety, fear, and anger you felt would make it even more difficult to calm down or to understand what you were supposed to do. As a former Israeli intelligence officer, I have observed the horrendous methods, in my opinion, that the military used on its dogs, the same torturous techniques that many trainers still use today. They claim punishment is necessary and effective, but believe me, violence is never appropriate, even when it is disguised under some very creative-sounding dog training terms. Each time a trainer wields punishment against a dog, a disturbed animal is created. If you blindly yell and yank on your dog's leash, you're acting like an out-of-control, angry lunatic, not someone trustworthy, and the dog will end up being afraid of you. I don't believe in ever using stress, intimidation, violence, alpha rollovers, or fear. This means no prong collars, choke chains, physical correction, or anything else I call Spanish Inquisition methods, which are pain, stress, or fear-based. On the contrary, I have found that games are the best teaching tools. The foundation of all dog coaching is as simple as changing what your dog associates with pain and what he associates with pleasure. Imagine indicating to your dog that the training session is over, and instead of his exhaling a sigh of relief and running to hide under the bed, he sits in front of you politely, his tail wagging, asking for more. To me, teaching a dog to obey sounds militant, as if the dog has no choice, and he will do what you command of him or else. Successfully training your dog is not about getting him to obey with no questions asked. Teaching manners to your dog and building a strong bond will bring the results you want. Your dog will want to come to you. After all, you are his benevolent leader, and he's proud to be your best friend. Each time you teach a dog through play training, set achievable short-term goals and celebrate his successes. Each time you replace a no with a yes, you are building an intense and unconditional friendship that will bring both of you endless satisfaction and joy. I can't tell you how many times clients look at me with amazement and say, "This is so easy and it makes so much sense. Why didn't I think of that?" Or, "I didn't know my dog was so smart. After all, she failed obedience school." The difference between teaching obedience through force and teaching manners through kindness is vast. The bottom line is that dogs fulfill our basic needs for connection, love, and acceptance. They are happy to give us these things, even on our worst days. We can show our gratitude and appreciation by consistently meeting their own 7 basic needs, which are detailed in Chapter 6. Let me impress upon you that if you are looking for an abundance of loyalty and devotion, your dog is eager to give these things to you. No matter the state of your life or how you look at any given time, your dog will be there, reminding you how great you are and encouraging you to smile. This book is about the ins and outs of dog training, which are play training, coaching, and teaching manners. After all, if a dog is going to become a part of your family, you need to teach her as you would teach your child to be polite. At the same time, however, you need to satisfy your dog's untamed wolf nature. In the pages to come, I'll share with you how to use my non-violent methods. I'll also show you how easily and quickly you can teach your dog to sit, lie down, quit jumping on guests, and stop begging at the table. I'll share the secret of how to develop a common language so you can communicate effectively with your dog. We'll also discuss how diet and exercise impact your dog's attitude and ability to learn good manners and positive behaviors. At the same time, this book is about more than just teaching your dog to sit, stay, and roll over. It's about life, how we choose to live it, and how much we can learn from our dogs. Success in dog coaching comes from consistency and your commitment to do what it takes to create a beautiful, productive, safe, and loving relationship. Then you can unleash the magic in him for all the world to see. If you follow my play training methods daily, you and your dog will see how easy and pleasurable dog coaching can be. The amazing results will thrill you both. I want you and your dog to smile at each other every single day and ask yourselves, how did we get so lucky? Some of my methods may seem completely different from what you have been told about dog training. They are. They are also faster to teach and more fun. I ask you to keep an open mind. Your dog will love you for it. My love for dogs and my desire to communicate with them began in my childhood. However, it wasn't until 1987, after I finished my service in the Israeli Air Force, that I realized training dogs would become my life's purpose. I spent several months in the Israeli desert, just below the Edom mountain range, at a field school and research facility. There I began observing wolves in the wild. What I saw fascinated and amazed me. I witnessed the older wolves integrating the younger ones into the wolf culture, correcting behavior through game playing, body postures, facial expressions, tug-of-war, hide-and-seek, baring teeth, which I call visiting the dentist, threatening growls, and cold shoulder treatments. There was no violence whatsoever. Although it all appeared quite fierce and dangerous, never did I see one wolf damage another in effort to socialize a pup into the pack or to get back at someone for a grievance. During this time, a vivid, recurring dream began waking me in the night, telling me that training dogs, using the wolves' natural methods, was my future. Thus began my lifelong career, as a nonviolent life coach for dogs and their owners. In other words, I have dedicated my life, personally, professionally, and spiritually, to being part of a natural and harmonious world. I believe that peace begins with interactions among our close circles and families, including our pets. As author Henry Salt wrote in his book, The Creed of Kinship, the basis for any real morality must be the sense of kinship between all living things. Among the millions of dogs and puppies that are dumped into shelters and the estimated 3 million that are put to sleep every year, about 60% are under 1 year old. How can a 9-month-old puppy who has been ignored, poorly trained, and violently disciplined not misbehave or show aggression? Why would he not defend himself with whatever resources he has? As someone who has overcome an abusive childhood, I only need to look into the big, wet eyes of a dog to understand that violence is not what they are about. Instead, I see the awe, mystery, joy, and hope that I want to nurture and appreciate. Dogs' natures are both wild and adventurous, with great love at their core, and the more you teach them in a loving, playful way, the more they will want to learn. Although dogs are related to wolves, their dual natures suggest that they also behave like toddlers, which is the aspect that creates the magical quality of dogs. We need to help them achieve a balance between the wolf and toddler aspects of their personalities without breaking their wild spirits. We must remember that each dog has an individual character with likes and dislikes. Whether they are purebred or the most creative combination of mutts, they experience frustration and joy at different levels. In essence, all dogs are sensitive, emotional, responsive animals that love a good leader and are hungry to learn and have fun. Their natural optimism is contagious, and their loyalty is unwavering. For these reasons, they are a blessing, magical gifts from God, and extraordinary resources for healing and companionship. However, we must learn how to bring out these magnificent qualities. My goal, initially motivated from bearing the brunt of the violence in my family, is to speak up and help disenfranchised beings in this world who have no voices to speak for themselves. I believe we all have a choice about whether we live our lives through love or fear. My play training is based on love, because that is how I have chosen to live life. I am not under the illusion that my beliefs are the only ones to believe in, or that my way is 100% true for everyone. But I ask you to keep an open mind, an open heart, and take from my experiences whatever makes sense to you. For me, if it's not about love, I'm not interested. I hope you feel the same way. Part 1. Stranger in a Strange Land. Chapter 1. A Living Dream. A massive dust cloud rose upward into the night sky, completely obscuring the towering Edom mountain range in the far distance. I had visited this location many times before, and I still marveled at the sheer mountain bluffs rising straight up out of the flat, sprawling expanse of wheat-colored desert. I was keenly aware of night noises as the distant sounds of crickets, a variety of exotic bugs, bird calls, and mysterious cracklings in the brush filled the air with a disharmonious melody. I loved the desert and was comfortable with the natural noises, but why in the world were there wolves creating this disturbance that was sending sand and dust clouds up into the atmosphere? By now, I'd watched this wolf pack many times, but I had never seen this kind of activity before. Hardly breathing, I waited for the dust to disperse, scared to death of what I might see when the air cleared. Crouching, I retreated farther back into the brush and glanced at my bicycle, my sole means of transportation out of here. Sleeping quarters were a good half-hour ride away, provided I didn't get a flat tire from the craggy desert floor and have to patch it in the dark. I continually scanned the earth around me, always on the lookout for the poisonous snakes and deadly yellow scorpions which were indigenous to the area. I slowed my breath, reminding myself that I was safe. A man called Zev, wolf in Hebrew, an apt nickname for a man involved in wolf research, had told me that as long as I stayed a good distance away from the wolves I was observing, they would leave me alone. That was no problem. Approaching a pack of wild wolves was the last thing I wanted to do. Still, the thudding of their padded feet on the packed desert earth made me afraid. I calmed myself down, remembering Zev's assurance that wolves were not interested in humans. He said if they saw me coming too close, they would most likely leave the vicinity before I did. But the dust storm I was watching concerned me, since I didn't understand what was going on. As the dust diffused, I caught sight of the back legs of a small brown wolf tearing across the desert floor. His entire body came into view, with the agility and tautness in his legs visible. He suddenly veered off, causing the dust to fly in the opposite direction, exposing several other wolves slightly smaller than he was who were chasing him. These were not the huge gray wolves that you see in the movies. Asian wolves, like the ones in front of me, were smaller and brown, about the size of a coyote, with less hair than a gray wolf. Still, they were capable of inflicting a lot of damage, and I feared they were ganging up on the alpha wolf, who was distinguishable by certain facial markings. Was I observing a change in regime? Would it be bloody? I stared out at the vast desert surrounding me, feeling very small. Untouched by man for the most part, and nearly void of vehicles, the sprawling desert acreage was home to the Hatzava Field School, a wilderness research facility in the Arava Desert. I had visited Hatzava on several occasions in the past, when my close friend Sigalit worked there as part of her army service. From the moment I first arrived at the field school, I'd fallen in love with this pristine land, despite the punishing heat, the stinging insects, and the remote location. This was nature at its purest, where animals were observed, but never hunted, by a group of people who profoundly respected the creatures who lived there. When I finished my military service, I'd felt drawn to spending some time at Hatzava in the beauty and magic of untouched nature, in order to figure out the rest of my life. But this field school was not a resort where you could make a reservation, check in, and order room service. It was a facility for animal, insect, reptile, and bird researchers. I needed a job in order to be there, so my friend introduced me to a professor who was researching Israeli desert birds called zenvanim, or Palestine babblers. He needed some help, and it was swiftly arranged that while the professor was busy teaching in Tel Aviv, I would stay at Hatzava as his research assistant, observing the zenvanim twice a day, every day, taking notes on their behaviors. Each morning I woke up before sunrise and rode my bicycle to a particular tree where the birds nested. As much as I hated the sound of the alarm clock in the dark, I absolutely loved being out before the world woke up. Those precious hours before sunrise, before the desert got so hot that you couldn't even bear to eat, were opportunities for me to spend time with my best friend, God. I felt him surrounding me, standing by my side and breathing inside me at the same time as I inhaled the fresh smells and this vast beauty that was his home, in which I felt like a welcome guest. After taking notes on the zenvanim's behavior when it was too hot to do anything else, I would ride back to catch some sleep. The rest of the day was unstructured until an hour or so before sunset, and back I went to the trees where the birds lived. Each time I watched the sun rise or set against the golden mountains in the distance, I felt as if I was on a movie set. The truth was, with the exception of a few hours a day when I watched the birds, I was lonely and bored. One evening, I saw a jeep pull up outside the facility with a dead ibex, an Israeli antelope, in the back. Flies buzzed around the smelly carcass. I met Zev, the driver of the jeep, for the first time, as well as 2 other men who were with him. "What's going on?" I asked Zev, thankful for anything eventful in this remote and isolated territory. "I research wolves," Zev told me. "We found this dead ibex, and we're heading to a feeding station to drop it off." "Can I come?" I asked eagerly. "Sure," he said. "Hop in." I jumped into the jeep, excited to have something to do after dark, the loneliest time of day for me. Although they were good people who were smart and hungry for knowledge, the others in Khatsava were loners. They mostly kept to themselves, and no one there kept regular hours, like the indigenous wildlife. We slept during the day to avoid the debilitating heat and prowled the desert in the cooler night. I was a social person who loved new adventures and the company of friends, and, frankly, I was going a little crazy dealing with my endless thoughts and had no direction for my future as of yet. I sat in the back of the jeep, my feet awkwardly resting on the seat in front of me to avoid touching the ibex. It was about 9 p.m. when we pulled up to an area designated as a wolf feeding station. The 3 guys dragged the carcass out of the jeep and dropped it heavily onto the earth. Then we drove a safe distance away, but where we could still see the ibex, and we waited. We had flashlights, but we didn't need them because the night was lit up by millions of brilliant stars. I had developed keen night vision during my army service, and the sky was always so bright with stars and planets. I only used artificial light for emergencies. We waited quietly for several hours, seeing nothing. Then I caught sight of the dark silhouette of a slinking animal. Another wolf followed close behind, and the 2 sniffed the ground, heading for the dead ibex. More arrived, about 8 in all. I knew they smelled us there, but they were not focused on us. They were much more interested in the bloody, dead gift we had left for them. While the pack salivated and waited, one wolf, I would learn later that he was the alpha, was the first to bury his face into the carcass's stomach, tearing through the soft flesh. He pulled out the lining of the stomach, blood dripping from his snout, and ate it. The others followed, ripping the flesh apart, exposing the organs. They would tear out a chunk of meat, run a short distance away, devour it ravenously, and then go back for more. The stench of the innards was putrid, something I will never forget. But to them it appeared to be the finest delicacy on earth. Later, Zev showed me several other feeding stations where they left dead animals they occasionally found in the desert. I began returning to those places on my own, observing the wolves any night I could find them. What had started as a way to relieve my boredom had turned into the best part of my day. Each night I crouched in the bushes, waited, and watched. As I observed these extraordinary feral creatures living their lives naturally, I was completely engrossed. I took it all in and felt the thrill of the magic that was occurring right in front of my eyes. On the night of the dust cloud, I held my breath. The wolves ran like a pack of lunatics and closed in on the alpha wolf. I had no idea what to expect. I thought back to the first time I saw the wolves, remembering the stench of the ibex they ate so voraciously. If they did that to the alpha wolf, I wasn't sure I could stand to witness such a terrible feast. As I fought the urge to cover my eyes, the chased wolf stopped abruptly, as if someone had suddenly yanked a pair of invisible reins. When he stopped, so did the others. They stared into his eyes, breathless and panting. I could have sworn then that the alpha wolf smiled. I saw his teeth and a flash of light in his eyes. He bent low on his back haunches, his front legs extended long in front of him in a play bow. Then he took off, chasing the wolf closest to him. He had turned the tables, and predator and prey flew across the sand, this time with the roles reversed. The alpha wolf stopped after a few minutes, seemingly tired of the game. He sniffed the ground and lay down. He looked bored as the wolf he had been chasing crept slowly toward him, his tail wagging low, his head down, his ears back. He started to clean the leader's ears, licking and grooming. The alpha wolf allowed it, as if he were accepting an apology. Order was established once again. The chase that had looked like a fight to the death was over. It had only been a game, albeit a fierce-looking one. I later came to realize that this behavior not only taught the wolves to hunt their prey, but it also helped to establish who was boss, a crucial aspect of their society. No one had been truly threatened, and no one got hurt. As the wolf pack rested and groomed one another after their immense energy output, I heaved a sigh of relief. I suddenly understood something. The alpha wolf, the one who was originally being chased, had never been the victim. Not for an instant. He had the upper hand the entire time. He taunted the pack with a challenge and then took off, racing around in random patterns, as if to say, "Catch me if you can." They couldn't. He was faster, smarter, and more agile than the rest. The reasons he was the alpha wolf. If anyone in the pack was not sure, he had proven it in no uncertain terms. I learned many other things from the wolves and their game playing, such as when they were engaged in a tug-of-war. A wild and dangerous-looking activity, it was one of their favorite methods for establishing hierarchical positions. Most of the challenges took place among wolves who were vying for the second and third positions in the pack, not the top spot that was already established. A wolf would grab one end of a leftover animal leg or a tree branch between his teeth, and another wolf would bite onto the other end. They salivated while they pulled on their respective sides, with sometimes as many as 3 or 4 wolves joining the play battle. Whoever tugged harder than the rest ended up not only with the branch, but with the respect of the others, without having to use any violence. I returned to my small room a little after midnight, dropped into my bed exhausted, and pulled up the sheet. It was too hot for covers, even with the air conditioning. That night, I had the first in a series of recurring dreams that would ultimately shape my future. In the dream, I heard a calm, authoritative voice tell me, "You must work with dogs." I awoke and sat upright, staring at the white walls around me. The words in my dream were clear, and I was eager to comply. But what did they really mean? I felt I had been touched by something otherworldly, and I knew that this dream held deep significance. Later I read a quote from a writer, Charlie Hedges, that described this sensation perfectly. "A dream is not something that you wake up from, but something that wakes you up." But what action was I supposed to take? When my time at Khatsava was over, I threw a large backpack over my shoulders and traveled to Southeast Asia for close to a year, temporarily postponing the dream. I would recall it in the future, though, as I started my own business as a life coach for dogs and their owners. I would base my training methods on the way the wolves interacted with one another, integrated their cubs into the pack, and respected their leaders beyond anything or anyone else. Chapter 2. The Loved Dog. In 1996, I founded the Loved Dog Center, a cage-free doggy daycare and boarding facility in West Los Angeles. The idea of doggy daycare first came to me in Brentwood, California, where I was called to a very fancy home to help a couple with their supposedly unmanageable dog. "When we get home," the owners had told me, "he drives us insane. He jumps and whines and nips, and he gets so crazy there's nothing we can do with him." I arrived at their home one evening at 9. This was when they usually returned from work to find Mikey, their Labrador mix, in a manic frenzy at the front door. "What has he done today?" I asked them. "Well," they said, "we're not really sure. He had the run of the house and our huge backyard and plenty of food, but he still makes us insane at night. We're so exhausted. Can you train him to stay put?" I stared at them. "Are you telling me that you leave this dog alone from 8 in the morning until 9 at night? He has no companionship, he gets no exercise, and you expect him to sit quietly when you get home? You want me to teach him to sit, stay, and lie down right now? Dogs...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?